After many, many months of this book aggressively glaring at me from my TBR shelf, we are finally picking up The Women by Kristin Hannah. I am so excited about this book. I know it's going to traumatize me. And I would love for you guys to be here to see all of that. So grab a blanket, grab some tea or coffee or your fun drink of choice. Grab the tissues because we're gonna need them, and let's read The Women together. I know it's gonna be rough because I'm only 50 pages in and I already want to cry. Time for a check-in, don't you? I am 162 pages into The Women by Kristin Hannah, and I have to say I am absolutely flying through this book. I'm really enjoying reading it. I'm having a lot of fun. I say fun, like it is fun. Like it's traumatic and it's sad and there's a lot going on that you're like, but it's fun to read. It's very fast paced. I feel like I am right inside our main character's head. I'm having a great time. If you haven't read The Women and you're not sure what it's about, this essentially is a historical fiction written around the Vietnam War. So our main character, her name is Frankie. She has decided that she is going to be an army nurse. I'm not gonna give too much about how she got there or necessarily why she's there, because I think it's really good to go into the story like not really knowing those things. So all you need to know is that she enlists for the army as a nurse. She is a certified, I believe, RN, and has like basically no experience. None of the other like subsects of whatever will take her in. So like the Navy won't take her, the Air Force won't take her because she doesn't have any experience. And the Army is like, yes, we need nurses. So she goes to Vietnam and she starts working as a nurse. And she starts off in this like big hospital that is seen as being like relatively safe in comparison to most of the other places in the country, but it's war. Like you're in the middle of a war zone, so no safe is really safe. And she sees some really horribly traumatic things. Of course, she makes some friends. She meets a lot of different kinds of people. She has two roommates when she shows up. And they are these other two women nurses. In this whole hospital, there are only 9 female nurses. There are doctors and surgeons and neurologists, and they are primarily men. Like the only other people are the other 8 nurses in the facility that are women. So already she is a little out of place. She is very young and very inexperienced and scared. I mean, she came into a war zone, so she's terrified. And I'm not gonna go too much more into like what happens in the plot because I don't want to give anything away. Like I said, I feel like it's really impactful to go into this like not really knowing a whole lot about what goes on. The writing is extremely fast paced. I have been absolutely flying through it because the way Kristin Hannah writes, you feel like you're in the head of the character that she is like writing about. you are like talking to your best friend, or like you're reading a sacred journal entry. Like that's how it feels to be reading this. The last Kristin Hannah book I read was The Nightingale, and it very much has that same kind of feel of like, I am experiencing this with these characters. I will say The Nightingale I feel like was a little slower than The Women. I feel like this is going extremely fast. And I will also say, because this is only one POV as opposed to The Nightingale, which is two POVs, I would say that this one, you do get to know this one character a lot better. There's definitely some good found family in this. I mean, our main character, Frankie, is a young adult, like very fresh out of nursing school. So she's very young, and she's in this setting that is very traumatic and not like a normal thing for young people to be experiencing, and surrounded by a whole bunch of other young people who are also experiencing the same thing. So there's a lot of like trauma bonding that happens from just being in this place together. And you get a little bit of this tension of, okay, I volunteered to, you know, go be in this war zone because I want to help people, and people are dying, and I'm seeing that, and I want to go help. And then back in the US, all of these people are like protesting the war, and they are like burning flags, and they're like doing all these things that basically make the people who are out in the war zone feel like, what am I even doing here? I'm not even appreciated by the people that like I'm supposedly serving. But there's also this tension of like, when is this war gonna end, and why are we even fighting it? So there's some really, really good perspective, I feel like, in here, of that tension between, what am I doing here? Like, is this war just pointless? And I want to be appreciated by the people that I'm here for and that I'm like serving. Why do, you know, the people of my home country, like not appreciate the fact that I am like here and like trying to fight for them? So it's really interesting how she handles that tension, and it's through like the main character's tension. Like, she is feeling these conflicting emotions about this, and so it's really, really interesting to read about. I do have a couple of quotes that I want to read you guys that I've pulled, just kind of out of context, because I don't want, like I said, I don't want to spoil anything. I'm going to start with this quote because I feel like it really perfectly encapsulates kind of what I was talking about with those like conflicting emotions. And it's, can't they support the warriors and hate the war? Our men are dying every day in service of their country. Doesn't that matter anymore? It's just this, oh, I couldn't have said it better, so I'm not gonna try. There were two more like kind of towards the beginning. This one I just thought was like so, it was so impactful in context. I guess it doesn't make as much sense out of context, but it just hit really hard, so I underlined it. But it's, sometimes it doesn't take much to save a man in Nam. And to give like the tiniest bit of context without giving anything away, like, it's not about like physically saving him, like there is something else like going on, and she's like there for him in like a really hard moment for him. So that like also just really hit. And then this other one I really, really like. It was from the very beginning of the book, and it kind of, I feel like, sets up the story really, really well, and just like encapsulates kind of like the biggest theme in the story. The quote is, "How did a woman go about opening up her world? How did one begin a journey when no invitation had been issued? It was easy for Finley. The path had been laid out for him. He was to do what all the McGrath and Alexander men did, serve his country with honor, and then take over the family real estate business. No one had ever suggested any future for Frankie beyond marriage and motherhood." I love that one because I feel like it just really sets up her character arc really well. She is shifting from this like 1950s ideal of, I'm just gonna get married and I'm gonna have kids and that's gonna be my whole life, to like this other like big theme or quote in the book, which is women can be heroes too. And her just kind of like realizing that as she goes along. So That's all I'm gonna say for now. Like I said, I don't want to give too much plot away. I want to talk about the themes. I want to talk some like quotes and feelings and things like that. But I really want you guys to be able to experience this for yourselves because it's so good and it's so impactful and so powerful in so many ways. And I'm only 160 pages in. I'm not ready for the trauma that I feel like is gonna happen through the rest of this book. I've already like almost cried twice. And that's rare for me in the first like 200 pages of a book. I usually am not connected enough to the characters at that point to like feel that emotional about something. And I like started getting emotional already a couple times. Like I haven't cried yet, but I have started like getting emotional, so I know this one's gonna be a tearjerker. But I'm gonna keep on reading and I will update you guys once I'm a little further in. I'll probably do one more update and then my final thoughts at the end.
I'm quite a bit further in now and I'm so scared because I feel like we're about to find something out. And I'm really hoping that it's not what I think it is. Because if it is what I think it is, I'm so scared. I have to do a little update because I'm a little further in and I'm actually so pissed. Like, I feel like I need to call my grandparents and be like, hey, is this how people were acting? Because this is crazy.
I'm not having a good time. where do I even begin? I guess I'll start by saying this was a 8-star read. Might honestly be my favorite book that I've read. Actually, probably is my favorite book that I've read all year. And likely is also my favorite book I've read by Kristin Hannah, who is one of my favorite authors. Like, I think I have found a new top book of all time. Like, I don't know if it's number one, but like it's in that list. You know what I mean? There is so much to say about this book, and none of it will do it justice. So I am just going to do my best to talk about kind of my thoughts and feelings overall after finishing this book. In the middle, I know I talked a bit about how I was feeling, and I read you guys some quotes, and all of those things do still stand true. I think there is just so much in this book that explores so many topics and themes that are so important for us to think about that we don't ever think about in our day and age. And especially like my generation, we've never lived through a war in the same way that this generation lived through a war. Like, the War of Vietnam was so unique to that period of time for the US that none of us who are younger than, 50, would have really understood or experienced the type of thing that the characters in this book experienced, which are representative of what real people experienced in the 60s and 70s. I think that Kristin Hannah just does a beautiful job telling the stories of people who really did not get their stories told in the time period that they were living in. I truly believe this is just such a stunning tribute to those who were in the Vietnam War, who were maybe fighting in the war, maybe they were nurses in the war, maybe they had a family member that was in the war. I think it portrays so many different perspectives so well, to the point of, I was born 30 years after this war, not quite, but almost 30 years after this war was over. And I feel like I could connect with someone who lived through it and have a much deeper understanding and appreciation for what they went through. And when a book can put you in the perspective of someone who you in normal life would not understand and would not be able to connect with, and make you feel for that person and make you understand a little bit more about what that person has been through, when a book can do that for you, it's an incredibly written book. There are a few scenes towards the end that I particularly love. One is having to do with the memorial that was built in DC for the people who died in Vietnam. And as I was reading it, was remembering being physically at that memorial. My school did like the 8th grade Washington, DC trip every year for the 8th graders, and I went on that trip and I saw that memorial. I remember it impacting me at the time and just walking through and seeing all the names. And I just remember being overwhelmed when I was there by the sheer number of names in that memorial area. And then reading this again just brought all of that back and put it in a totally new light for me, made me completely understand it on a level that I had never understood it before, and really, really impacted me emotionally. I mean, I broke down. Like, there were multiple parts in this book, as you guys saw, that I was so emotional. I was so connected to the characters. So this book made me giddy, it made me angry, it made me sob, and there were so many points in this book that made me so emotional. There's so many things that I could say about this book, but if I leave you with nothing else, I hope that you will go pick this up if you haven't already, so that you can understand a perspective of a group of people who very commonly are forgotten about. the women in Vietnam are so often cast off or forgotten because it was so common at the time for people to believe that there were no women in Vietnam. And so they did not get the appreciation and the love and the support that they needed in the time when they were dealing through all of this. And I think what we can take from this now is have empathy for the people around you, and not just, Vietnam veterans, but anyone who has stories of trauma and things that they've lived through that they are trying to talk about or trying to get help about, or they're trying to share with you. Take time and listen to their stories. Be there for people who need you to be there for them. Listen to people who need someone to listen to them. I think this book overall just teaches you such a kindness and such an empathy for people. And I think it really just opens up your eyes to how we can continue to be better people and to serve the people around us, to support the people around us, and to show them love when maybe somebody else wouldn't. So that was a whole jumble of words, and obviously I had a lot to say about this. I still feel like I have a lot to say about this, but I only just finished this last night, so I don't think I'm done processing, but I did want to go ahead and wrap up this video with just my final thoughts and my review. I really hope that this encourages you to go pick this book up, because I am not lying when I say that it will change your perspective if you let it. It will change your way of thinking if you let it. So go pick it up if you have the chance. That's all I have to say. It was amazing. Kristin Hannah has done it again.